Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. So today the main topic is going to be regarding the similarities between Ruqya diagnosis and dream interpretation. But before I do this, I just want to discuss one last thing regarding Ruqya reactions, and that is the importance of the reaction itself being clear and significant, because if one cannot diagnose general spiritual diseases like sihr or ayn or mas or waswas conditioning using your Ruqya reactions, you will not be able to diagnose the more intricate details of these spiritual diseases, or it's going to take you ages. Like, I believe in some of my previous videos I showed you my own reactions. This allowed me to ask a plethora of questions from Allah in a matter of minutes. Even let's say in 10 minutes I could ask maybe 15 questions, and my reaction was quick. And if it was a case of me needing to find a ta'weez or trying to find out who's done the sihr on me, or who's given me the ayn, I'll find it really quickly. But if you're unsure that if the pins and needles at the bottom of your feet is a reaction or not, let me just tell you, it's most likely not a reaction, because that's not going to get you the information you need. You need something more significant than that. So I think that's another reason why it is important for the reactions to be strong. And like I said, if you're not getting clear reactions and you've tried multiple Ruqya diagnosis sessions, you've done tawbah, you're not committing major sins, and you're trying to be a good Muslim and you're sincere, then it means most likely you don't have the spiritual disease, but like I said, I will be going into great detail when I get to the practical element of the Ruqya diagnosis. Now on to today's session, inshallah. So one thing people need to realize is that Ruqya diagnosis and dream interpretation, they go hand in hand. So both of these, Ruqya and dream interpretation, can both be learnt. So if you find someone reliable who's so both of these are based on experience. This is something you need to understand. Dream interpretation and Ruqya diagnosis are both based on experience, and there's evidence. I've written this in my previous chapter with regards to how Ruqya is an act of worship, but unlike Salah, Hajj, it is an act of worship where there's permissibility for some flexibility and creativity. And it's like jihad as well. As long as the objective is met and the work and you're working within the framework of the Sharia, it is permissible. And I can go into great detail on this matter when the time comes, inshallah. So for now, what you need to understand is that both of these, Ruqya diagnosis and dream interpretation, are based on experience. They can both be learnt. They're both, as I mentioned, they're both developed via experience. Dream interpretation in particular, you have to have some kind of talent or inclination for it. Yeah, I believe that learning the knowledge from someone is not enough sometimes if you don't have that inclination. I would say if a person is forced to learn something that they're not inclined towards, it's akin to watering a barren land. Nothing will be growing. And I guess the same in a way applies to Ruqya. I believe everyone from the Ummah should learn the basics of Ruqya, and that's what I've highlighted in my first two videos. So if everyone can just focus on them two videos, inshallah that should suffice them. I will be updating the treatment intentions in the actual description of the video. However, the basis is the same with regards to the diagnosis and the treatment, inshallah. Yeah, having knowledge of both is advantageous, So if you feel you've got an inclination towards dream interpretation, I would suggest that you try and get yourself into Ruqya, as in learning it as a science and learning the in-depth intricacies. And likewise, if you're already a specialist in Ruqya, then it might be worth delving into the world of dream interpretation. Yeah, it is it's a serious field to be in, dream interpretation and Ruqya. Credibility is gained by the results provided that both the interpretation of the dreams and the results of the Ruqya is attained without overstepping the bounds set by the Sharia. So you're going to respect a dream interpreter and a Raqi based on their results, provided both of them are working within the framework or the confines of the Sharia. As long as they're doing that and they're getting results, that's how you get to know of them. That's how you know that this is a credible person to be going to. I like to use the example. I mean, I come from a background of boxing in which I used to compete, where the example I use is all boxers compete under a set of rules known as the Queensberry rules. However, you have different sort of schools of thought when it comes to boxing. So to the untrained eye, it all looks the same. However, one school of thought is superior to the others. So for example, the British school of boxing is superior, factually speaking, to, let's say, the Pakistani boxing school of thought or method, in the way they box. But to the untrained eye, they're doing the same thing. However, it's the nuances that make the difference. They're both competing under the same set of rules. So how do you know which is superior? Based on the results. So the British boxing team has shown that it is superior to the Pakistani boxing team based on their results. So now I can trust them in terms of taking my knowledge from them when it comes to boxing. The same applies to Ruqya, guys. There is a reason, and I don't mean to be arrogant, wallahi. There's a reason why I say this is the most effective and accurate and the most comprehensive method of Ruqya diagnosis. This is not out of arrogance, this is based on what I've seen. I have sat with Raqis up and down the country, and I've seen their results, and I've seen what this method does, which I've learned from Ustad Saeed Abdullah. Our results are just something else. Not because we're anything special, it's just, alhamdulillah, we have both been open-minded in learning from other people, and then we have applied it. And it's worked. If it did not work, I would not be teaching this. This is a tried and tested method. Moving on to the next point. It is possible that a person may be a specialist in Ruqya Sharia and dream interpretation, yet lacks knowledge in other Islamic sciences. On the flip side, it is possible that an alim of the deen will be completely ignorant of both Ruqya and dream interpretation. So just because someone is a sheikh and has graduated as an alim from the local institute, it does not mean they will have knowledge of Ruqya, because a lot of the people that are specialists in this field, it is usually not by choice. It certainly wasn't for me. It's something that you're just put in a situation where you have to deal with it, and then you get really good at it. Whereas that scholar, he may be a specialist in many Islamic sciences, but he may be completely clueless to Ruqya and dream interpretation. Likewise, someone who may be a specialist in Ruqya or dream interpretation, it does not mean that they will have knowledge in the other Islamic sciences. Ideally, it is better if you specialize in Ruqya and dream interpretation to try and attain that status of a scholar in the sight of Allah. Because the more knowledge you have, it will help you on your journey as a Raqi or as someone who interprets dreams for others or even for themselves. The other similarities between Ruqya diagnosis and truthful dreams, so both of them are from Allah. For this, the evidence is for the Ruqya reaction. I provide this in my previous chapter of my book, alhamdulillah. And that was from the notes I obtained from Saeed Abdullah. It's hard. It's something he worked hard for. I believe it took him 6 years to write them notes, subhanallah, of gathering the evidences and everything. And he's been an excellent teacher to me. And without his help, I would not have reached the stage I have in this field, alhamdulillah. May Allah bless him. Ameen. Right, so the next point, the shayateen cannot interfere with truthful dreams. So if a dream is truthful, the shayateen cannot interfere. And we know if the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam appears in a dream, that the shaitan cannot resemble him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And with the ruqya, if done with sincerity, the shayateen from the jinn cannot interfere. As I mentioned before, the ruqya diagnosis must be done with sincerity, and it must be done correctly. If either of these are missing, it will allow the jinn to interfere. So if you start messing about with your ruqya diagnosis, I'm going to test it. I'm going to see if the results are consistent or not. You know what? And this will send you down a rabbit hole. And it will allow the jinn to interfere. So you have been warned. You cannot be asking silly questions during the ruqya diagnosis, because your results will be all over the place. I mean, we know this works 100%, but the condition is you need to be sincere, and you need to do it correctly. The other thing is the information which you obtain from a truthful dream is 100% accurate. So for instance, if you're told something in a dream and it's a truthful dream, it's going to be void of falsehood. Truth and falsehood cannot mix. And the same applies to the ruqya diagnosis. The results are 100% accurate. We know this from years upon years of experience. Or like I said, provided the person is sincere in his ruqya dua to Allah and is staying away from major sins. The next one is we can make a general dua asking Allah to show us if we're afflicted with a spiritual disease, which then can be shown in a truthful dream. And this dua we normally apply in ruqya diagnosis to diagnose spiritual diseases. Again, I go into great detail in my previous chapter. If anyone wants those notes, I mean that the book is not complete, but I don't mind sending the notes to anyone that's interested of the previous chapter that I've done, which discusses the importance of the ruqya diagnosis and provides the evidences. It talks about the similarities that I'm discussing here, but in far more detail, with evidences given from hadith and quotes from the scholars, etc. Right, this is interesting. A truthful dream cannot be used as evidence in a Sharia court. Likewise, the results you obtain in a ruqya diagnosis cannot be used as evidence in a Sharia court. So this means if someone gets a dream showing them who's doing the sihr, or even the location of the sihr, which indicates the person that's actually done it, you cannot actually take this to the Sharia to a Sharia judge. It is not sufficient. It's something between yourself and Allah, and you can share it with your loved ones around you just to warn them. And then the same applies for the ruqya diagnosis. The results are between you and Allah, and if you want to share it with your family and friends to warn them, that's fine. But you cannot really publicly start making Facebook posts and saying this person has done this and I'm going to take them to the courts and all this. You cannot do it. You have to control yourself. Another thing is worth mentioning is that the ruqya diagnosis is similar to the truthful dreams in the sense, if I tell you my results of the ruqya diagnosis, you can believe me or you could disbelieve me. You cannot call me a liar. Likewise, if I tell you a dream I've had which indicates someone has done sihr on me, you can take it or you can leave it, but you cannot say you're a liar. Does that make sense? And that's something I must emphasize. Let me just see. In this chapter, I aim to elucidate the intricacies of Ruqya reactions and highlight the common missteps made by many Rakis. By sharing my personal struggles, I hope to underscore the profound significance of understanding Ruqya diagnosis. Though it is challenging to fully convey the depth of this knowledge to those who haven't experienced it firsthand, I believe that sharing my journey can offer valuable insights to those who resonate with these challenges. Individuals like myself who were once deeply uncertain about this essential facet of this noble science. Ruqya diagnosis dispels that uncertainty, and this is why I lament the situation of those Rakis who focus solely on treatment but shy away from Ruqya diagnosis, often because they lack the knowledge to perform it. If we were more sincere and open-minded and willing to learn from others, we might avoid such predicaments as an ummah. As illustrated in the examples above, identifying sihr-related objects significantly expedited the patient's treatment. This principle applies to all spiritual afflictions. Having more beneficial and precise information enhances the efficacy of treatment by the will of Allah. Not just that, it gives you it allows you to be cautious. It's a form of taking preventative measures for the future. If you know who's doing sihr on you, you're going to stay well clear of them. I mean, we have developed the treatment plan for the sihr to such an extent just this year, and wallahi, I don't mean this in any way, in an arrogant way, and that is to say that I am not really afraid to eat in people's houses anymore that may even intend to harm me by using sihr on me. If I tell you the number of times I've had sihr on me, I've been immersed in sihr, not by choice, and it's allowed me to take the Ruqya game to another level. Well, alhamdulillah, we are removing sihr. We diagnose it and we remove it so quickly. Well, alhamdulillah, we don't just remove it, we're destroying the entire network. That magician will be left with no jinns. He or she will have to go back and do their shirk and kufr and their worship to obtain more jinns. You know, it messes them up, let's put it that way. So there was a time when I was not eating with my father because he was living at a place where someone in that house was doing sihr on me. But up until this year, well, now I'm not really bothered. If that person does sihr on me, go for it. From what I've gone through and the amount of times I've had sihr done on me, just in the space of a few months, has allowed me, has given me the confidence to, as long as I've got my athkar done, if sihr hits me and Allah wills, I'll destroy it, bidhnillah. I have no fear of it anymore. And this is something I only gained after being immersed in it, which then allowed me to sort of just take my Ruqya game to another level. And that's what I want to convey to you. You know, I remember hearing cases, but I remember asking one Raki, I was like, Akhi, tell me, have you ever seen a patient go from being afflicted to being fully cured bidhnillah, from A to B? Have you ever seen it? And they could never give me a clear answer and say, yeah, Akhi, shifa is from Allah, or this alhamdulillah. They would never be clear. I can say I have seen numerous cases, including myself, where a person was afflicted with sihr and they've been cleared. I've seen cases where they've been afflicted with sihr today, this hour, and within a matter of minutes it's been cleared. And this is from Allah, and I think a lot's got to do with the method we have recently discovered. It's a very recent thing, guys. The older method is still extremely effective in removing the sihr. This method doesn't just remove the sihr that I will be teaching, inshallah, and I actually mentioned it in the first two videos. It destroys the whole thing. In my personal experience, it destroys it in a matter of minutes, sometimes even seconds. Wallahi, I am not exaggerating. And I will go into detail as to why we think it's being destroyed so quickly. You know, and I have to say, all praise be to Allah. He is the one who cures. and it's something I cannot wait to share with you. Now, the Ruqya diagnosis has specific rules that must be followed. While Ruqya diagnosis is indeed a gift from Allah, it must be used within a structured framework to prevent its misuse or for trivial purposes. To avoid the traps set by Shaitan, I will be teaching the 7 rules for advanced and specific Ruqya diagnosis. These guidelines will ensure that this valuable tool is utilized appropriately and not abused. So we've got some people, they just go into a bit of a rabbit hole when they're doing the diagnosis. Yeah, you can check how many jinns you've got inside of you. You can check the gender of the jinn, but it all has to be for a beneficial purpose.